Welcome to the RFD channel, and today we have another lure painting video for you. So instead of making a lure today, I have some already made plastic crankbaits that I wanted to work on. I was able to get these at Bass Pro Shops in the clearance outlet. We're going to be working on some pre-mades, which means we're basically just painting these, but I'm going to be making some stencils for it out of this. These are like paper covers. They work really good. This is mainly for my rooster tails, but I'm going to be making these plastic stencils. So I'm first going to start off by cutting off the ends. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off to open it up. The pattern today is shad that I'm going with. In this video, I should say in this picture, you can see there's some yellow splotching kind of coming down. So that's one of the things I want to do with this stencil, is try to get some realistic background patterns for this. The other thing is there's a few spots where the shad has some damaged scales that show up dark. I wanted to kind of add that in there. I don't think I'm going to go with the pattern that this guy has. I like the black spots on this guy, so I may do something similar to that. Now, one of the things I'm going to do with this, since I can't make clear wooden baits, I wanted to get some plastic baits that I can do that are translucent. It's a little bit better for the finesse waters. If you got real clear water, you kind of want clearer baits. So that's what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to try to keep, the top will be dark. I'm going to try to keep the belly kind of translucent. All right, so let's get drawing up my stencil here. I'm just doing that for reference, so I know kind of what size I need. Since I'm making a new one, I can just kind of make it to whatever size I want. This marker only works if you have it in a certain direction. I'm using the wood burning knife again. Well, not knife, but wood burning tool. I want this to be pretty irregular, so I'm loosely following these. I do probably want to be careful with the fumes. This does make fumes. We can come in and touch it in a few spots to make it a little more jagged and irregular. Since I want this to continue up, I'm just going to go ahead . Completely cut this. Not sure if you can see that, but alright, so once again we're going to do the same thing. Now this is where I really wanted to try a new tool out, or I wanted to see what this one will do. This is the fish scale that I use to actually do scales. So let's see what this does. So there's the pattern I'm going to do. I'm going to crank it up. Sitting at 4. I was sitting at 3 on the earlier. Now we're sitting at 4. Now I increased the heat a little bit so it gives me a little bit bigger area when I touch down on this. It may help you see it a little better. Do this on a piece of wood so it doesn't burn. A new mat. So I decided to do some of the gill patterns. Mosquito. Gross.
Mosquito?
Yep, I got it.
I get it. I get it.
Yep, I got it.
I got it.
I got it.
I get it.
Killed it.
Get it.
Yep.
I get it, Daddy.
Yeah, I got it.
I got it.
Mm-hmm. Sure did. Okay, those are done.
Yeah, those are done.
Yep, those are done.
Those are done.
Now I gotta do this line. So before I get into the painting of this lure, I wanted to go over one of the issues I ran into with the original bait that I was making. Now, the original bait I was making, I ended up going over it with the colors I thought was going to be really good for it. But because it was a clear bait, I ended up running into some coloration issues that you don't normally run into, especially since I almost always put a white or a black primer down on my bait before I start painting. With it being clear, I wasn't getting the colors that I was wanting because it was so translucent and my paint was so translucent. It was actually not showing up the way I wanted to. So I ended up having to go back and redo the lure. What I ended up doing with this new bait is I went over it with a tequila yellow candy color. So I used my stencil on that to get a uneven break line on it. A similar pattern on both sides. That's one thing nice about using the stencils is you can just kind of spray it and not worry about overspray. So I wanted to make sure I kept that belly kind of clear, but I also didn't want a clear break line on that yellow because if you look at some of the shad, they have some yellow that kind of just blends down. So that's what I ended up doing. The first time I tried to do that, but my balancing clear had gone bad. Tequila yellow didn't show up very well, and then I didn't make it very dark because I was afraid it was gonna mess up the bait. It didn't end up messing up the bait, but it did mess up the coloration of my bait. Using this Wicked Metal Fast Pack Green. Gonna hit this on the back. Alright, we're gonna do our chartreuse line down the middle. So we have our fluorescent line. Using the Wicked Pearl White. This is going on the belly. Alright, I'm going to do some details in this Wicked Metallic Bronze. I've dumped down the pressure quite a bit and I've thinned this out, so hopefully I'll get a pretty good spray. I got some new color shifts. I wanted to try this on the belly. It's like a really bright pink, but it's a pink to gold. Let's see what it looks like on the belly. I'm gonna use this color shift bright gold brown. I'm gonna kind of go over the side. Okay, gotta say, I like the sparkle with that, so we'll go with it. I'm just kind of dulling down some of that chartreuse line. Alright, we're gonna do some moss green, and we're gonna do this for the accents. I'm gonna just darken up the gills just a hair. Nice big shad nut. Okay. I am going to darken the top just a hair. Okay. Alright, we're using one more color shift. We're going to use this orange violet. And I'm going to do this right over the top over that black to kind of dull down that black. This should give it a little more of a bronze hue on the top. That's more of the effect I wanted. Oh, I like that. I think we might have to bring that down a little bit. Time for the eyes. Right. So I want to go ahead and finish this other bait. It's kind of starting to get a bass pattern to it. Not a full one. So I'm just gonna, I've got that stencil that I made. I've redid it a little bit so it is a little bit more bigger. I think I'll like it a lot better. This is the Detail Moss Green. Still giving nice dark lines, but not black. That gives it an interesting flair. Let's also give it a pin. fluorescent orange. So another thing I did on this build is I wanted to try a new epoxy that I had encountered. Now you can get this epoxy at Menards. It is this Glaze Coat epoxy. And one reason I wanted to go with the Glaze Coat epoxy is because I noticed when I was using it the first time that this stuff stays flexible. And I was hoping because it stays flexible, this is the epoxy by the way. I noticed that it stayed flexible, and the thing I wanted it to stay flexible is I'm hoping that when a bait hits the rock, when I'm casting it and hit a tree branch or something, I don't actually break the clear coat, but it just kind of stays on the bait, protecting the paint scheme a lot more. And I also think that this will hold up a little bit better to scraping on rocks. Now the one downfall of this Glaze Coat, and I noticed this when we first used it anyways, is it stays tacky for the longest time. It'll stay tacky for at least a week. I think it was a week or 2 weeks really before our countertop really set up. Now, it does get a lot of bubbles in it because you have to mix it real good, but I got really long working times on this stuff. In fact, I ran into an issue with the bait. I actually turned off my rotator way too soon and ended up getting a little bit of a drop forming on my baits. Unfortunately, I didn't catch it in time to keep it rotating because I went to bed. And since that's a little Connects motor, I don't really like to leave it running while I'm going to sleep. It seems like it would be an awfully good way to start a fire. So I do unplug it before I go to bed, and I ran out of time. It was running. I thought it was probably pretty set up. I let it run for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before I turned it off. But that still wasn't enough time. So I need to remember to do, if I'm going to use this stuff in the future, I'm going to have to start rotating it way earlier in the day. The lures are still setting up. I don't have them completely hardened yet, so I haven't been able to get out and test these. And when I release this video, they're still going to be setting up. So it's going to be a little bit before we see a trial of these lures. The next lure making video is going to be a handmade lure because I've gotten lots of requests, and so we are going to use all hand tools on making the next lure. So stay tuned.